The highest paid athlete in all human history is thought to be Roman charioteer Gaius Appius Diocles. He retired at the age of 42 after racing chariots for 24 years. This was somewhat rare as chariot racing was very dangerous and many charioteers died before making it to retirement. So, although he wasn't the greatest racer, his longevity and exciting race style allowed Gaius Appius Diocles to amass over 35 million sesterces over his life. This figure is difficult to accurately convert to today's currency, but it's thought this would put Gaius Diocles' net worth in the ballpark of $15 billion. In contrast, today's highest paid athlete, Michael Jordan, raked in a measly $2 billion. Sure, you wouldn't even bother picking that up if it fell out of your pocket. So what happened to good old-fashioned chariot racing? I mean, basketball is fun too, but I think given the choice to spectate a modern basketball game versus an ancient chariot race, we'd all pick the latter. You're sitting out in the Circus Maximus, drinking with your mates, the sun is beaming down, the Sabine women are looking good, and then someone gets thrown from their chariot and trampled to death. The crowd goes wild, life is good. Well, believe it or not, it didn't go away for good. In fact, a modern reimagining of chariot racing is potentially even more dangerous than the traditional incarnation. It's probably a lot cooler though. The ancient masses would have been mesmerised by this. So what's it all about? Well, chariot racing was a very popular sport in the ancient Greek, Roman and Byzantine civilizations. Generally, each chariot would house a driver, who was usually a slave or contract professional, and this chariot would be pulled by 4 horses, or sometimes 2. The racing required massive arenas and was very dangerous. A number of horses pulling heavy rigs at high speeds colliding could result in serious injury and death for both the horses and the riders, which is probably why people enjoyed it so much. Despite the risk involved to riders, victories were almost always credited to the horses and their wealthy owners. Nobody really gave a shit about the bum in the chariot. However, similar to gladiators, the charioteer could transform his lowly status by becoming a celebrated and legendary champion of chariot racing, and this could net them a lot of money too, as previously mentioned. I guess it's not all too dissimilar with racing today. There are a few big names that make mountains of money, but a lot of these fellas are overlooked for what car they're driving until they make a name for themselves. The popularity of chariot racing declined after the fall of the Roman Empire, to the point where it has basically vanished in modern times. You can still see it in some form or another at the occasional festival or exhibition, and harness racing is sort of in the same spirit, but chariot racing just doesn't exist at the same scale it used to, probably because it's so dangerous. Why is it so dangerous? Well, I'd personally attribute it to all the horses. Horses are incredibly strong, incredibly heavy, and incredibly stupid, and that's an incredibly dangerous combination. Sorry horse lovers, I appreciate horses are beautiful, elegant creatures, but they're also really, really dumb. I'm afraid of being paralysed by a horse that fell on top of me at the shock of seeing a balloon, or kicked me in the head because the patch of grass it was standing on was a little too moist for its liking. So if we get rid of the horses, we can make chariot racing safer, and thus a viable option for a popular sport again, right? So what if we replace the horses with, let's say, motorbikes? No, wait a minute. That sounds somehow even more dangerous. A horse may be dumb, but a motorbike? Motorcycle chariot racing's origin is commonly attributed to the release of the silent movie Ben-Hur in 1925. It's thought scenes of chariot racing in the movie inspired people to have a go at reviving the classic sport. It's believed this began in Australia, the Australians, I guess, not satisfied with the volume of ways to die in their country. Now, drawing a man riding a chariot being pulled by one or more motorcycles is just about the last thing I want to be doing over and over and over again. And yes, that is how these videos are made, folks. I really do have to draw this shit. But thankfully, there are photographs and even footage of this. Early rigs consisted of the driver on the motorcycle pulling a chariot and charioteer that were little more than ornament. As the sport gained popularity outside of Australia and spread to Europe and America, more convoluted rigs appeared, consisting of 2 driverless motorcycles and a charioteer who controlled them from the chariot with some configuration of reins. Sometimes the steering was done just by making one bike go faster than the other times it was done by a rigid extension attached to the handlebars of the bikes. Here's some footage of the mad bastards actually racing in the 1930s. Looks pretty cool, although probably not particularly safe. Then again, what was back then? If you're gonna die, I suppose you might as well do it in a motorbike chariot race rather than succumbing to lead paint poisoning, or inhaling asbestos, or owning a watch. They painted the hands with radium. Actually, they put radium in a lot of things. This is kind of what I'm talking about, you know. Back then, they just kind of did things, like the first cavemen figuring out which berries were okay to eat. Sometime in the late 30s, we thought motorcycle chariot racing simply wasn't dangerous enough and decided to do something else. Chariot racing's popularity once again declined. However, it has not disappeared altogether. Motorcycle chariot racing does still exist today, with the added benefit that you can see how people have set up their rigs on the internet, just in case you too thought 70 was too high a number for life expectancy. On an unrelated note, just like chariot racing, my Twitter account has also been revived after a long period of extinction. I guess they finally saw sense. Let this be a warning to everyone else. So go follow me on there before I inevitably fall out with the new management too, and also buy a channel membership for added perks like exclusive emojis. And if you're not arsed going to another website or spending any money because you're a cheap, lazy bastard, well, I can respect that. You can just subscribe. It's free, which means it's pretty good value. Thanks.
The chariot race, an idea they borrowed from Muzzo's capital, only with steady steel horses instead of the wonky wop ones. And what's more, they're advancing.
Even in the 30s in Australia, they had their versions of chariot racing, but Rome was never like this. It's a great race with Mark Antony just ahead of Caesar.